Mr. Nichols is charged with 54 crimes. And those crimes were committed on March 11th, 2005 at the Fulton County Superior Courthouse. And the evidence will show that as he sat at that table with his lawyer, there was a plan devised by a conniving, cold-blooded, remorseless, evil, and extremely, extremely dangerous mind.
52, 53, and 54. That there is 4 life sentences without parole stacked on top of each other. Because I want to send the message. I'm giving you the maximum every day I could give you. If there was any more that I could give you, I would.
The trial of Fulton County Courthouse killer Brian Nichols was the most expensive and perhaps most contentious of any criminal case in the history of Georgia. Nichols killed a judge, sheriff's deputy, and court reporter during an escape on March 11, 2005, while he was being tried for rape. That evening he killed a federal agent. On Saturday, February 28th, the Georgia Bar, Media, and Judiciary Conference brought together the 2 judges involved in the case, a prosecutor and defense lawyer, and journalist, to look back at the lessons of a trial where guilt was never in doubt. Despite the certainty of the evidence, the case would be delayed because of funding issues, and the first judge, Hilton M. Fuller, would be subject to a barrage of criticism from prosecutors, legislators, and even a fellow Fulton judge for repeated delays in the case and millions of dollars that were spent by defense lawyers. Judge Fuller recused on January 30, 2008, after making an unguarded comment to a New Yorker magazine writer in which he said of Nichols, "Everyone in the world knows he did it." Judge James G. Bodiford was then asked to take the case.
And he said, "Would you consider taking the case?" I said, I don't know, because I think I just told my wife that morning, I said, whoever gets this case is just a complete loser for them, as individually. And so I talked to my wife. I said, you continue to go and talk, and I said, you certainly can get back with me. And I said, I'll need to talk with my wife. And he said, can you do it over lunch? So I talked to my wife, and she just simply said, one of the nicest things that has ever been said to me, she said, "Jim, you need to take it. They need you."
From the beginning, the defense indicated a willingness to accept a plea agreement that provided for life without parole. The state, however, asked for the death penalty, bringing 54 counts against Nichols. Some wondered if 54 counts were necessary and if they served only to raise the cost of the case.
Which one of the victims would you have suggested we call to say that their count just wasn't important enough to name on an indictment?
When the press is reporting around the country that we can't afford the death penalty, let's not only talk about how much money it took to defend and prosecute, and by the way, that's never been reported, it's never been investigated. How much money did it take the prosecution to take this case to trial? But when we talk about the cost to the system, to the community, and we think of those 4 innocent lives, and we look at what happened between March 11, 2005, and all the money, the bloodletting, the attacks on the judicial system by the legislature, by committees that were set up to investigate the judge and the lawyers in the case by the legislature, was it worth it?
If he's going to ask for the death penalty in any case in the world, he's going to have to ask for it in this case. Or he's just going to have to say, we're not going to ask for it anymore.
Judge Fuller, who at one time was the subject of a legislative inquiry for alleged mismanagement of the case, says the main lessons of the trial are political.
Was that case becoming so political because of the money involved? Yes. All death penalty cases are political by very nature of the way it's selected. And I think because of the political nature of this, and because of the vast reporting, it just got out of control a little bit. And quite honestly, I had no doubt about my ability to keep the case under control of those things I could control. can't control some less than informed comments from members of the General Assembly. I can't control comments from young members of the judiciary who have never tried a death penalty case and don't know what they're talking about.
In the end, a jury voted 9-3 on December 12, 2008, to give Nichols life, turning down the state's request for the death penalty. Judge Botiford says justice was done, despite the state's inability to win a death verdict.
One of the most effective witnesses I thought they had was the guy that got up there and had been a former warden and also a person that was a former Department of Corrections head in another state. They got up there and said, this is going to be Brian Nichols' life for the next 40 or 50 years. That's the life he's living. There's no longer any cameras. He doesn't get to dress in a fancy suit. He doesn't have the Yale lawyers. He's in a cell that stretches this far. That's it. He doesn't have to get out of his bed to reach to the other side. He cannot even exercise on the floor. He can't lay down and exercise. He gets out 3 times a week for a shower. That's his life for the rest of his life.
And insofar as my responsibilities and Jim Botiford's responsibilities was to provide for all parties a fair trial. There was so much pressure in this case not to do that. Think of the difference we would be in right now if, rather than having a good team of lawyers, you had somebody who went to sleep at counsel table, as happened several years ago, and you had a conviction, probably a death sentence, that would then be subject to appeal. That's what I was trying to avoid, and that's what I'm sure Judge Botiford was trying to avoid. And I think the system did work.
This is Ed Bean for the Daily Report.